To High Level Sports Talk. We are here with legendary coach Steve Lappas. He's coach Villanova back in the man. This is a big interview here. How you doing, Coach Lappas?
I'm doing great, leader. How's it going?
Man, just working hard. Sports is a 24/7 thing, man. It really is. How you been doing this morning, man?
Doing great. Just getting ready for another basketball season. So
Right,
it's always an exciting time.
right, man. This is. I think this is it's a game changer for women's and men's basketball. It's really been something, man. NILs, transfers, women basketball, more exposure. So it's been something, man. We was talking this morning, man, and Tim Thomas. I want to get more because that was like a big. It was real big, man. I mean, Tim was like one of the. It was him or Kobe. That was it. It was him or Kobe. And what was the process of recruiting Tim? How hard was it? Like, how long were you recruiting Tim Thomas?
Well, we first time I saw Tim, he was like 14 years old. I saw him at a tournament at the University of Delaware. As a matter of fact, it's a funny story. I was watching another kid on a court, and all of a sudden I'm hearing, from this court down the other end. I said, hey, what was that? And they said, oh, there's this kid down there who was 14 at the time, Tim Thomas. I had never seen him before. And I was like, then I went down, I had to check him out. I was like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? He was 6'9", handle the ball. He was kind of like he was perfect then, but he's even more perfect now because he's a 6'9" guy who could shoot threes, handle the ball. He was strong, athletic, and more than that, he was a tremendous kid. So yeah, we recruited him hard for a long time, as did North Carolina. It was probably us in North Carolina throughout the whole thing.
North Carolina, okay.
Yeah, and we ended up being fortunate to get him.
That year with their team, describe that team and how did he impact, like, on the court? People guard them, the matchup problems, like how was it good to coach him, the places you could put him, like?
Well, you know what, it was great coaching him. If I had to do it over, I would have done a lot of things different, to be honest with you. Now, we were 24-9 that year, so we had a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But we had Chuck Cornegay and Jason Lawson and Alvin Williams were all seniors.
Right.
So Tim comes in as a freshman, and the truth be told, he was probably an ideal power forward for high school, for college, ideal. But I had Chuck Cornegay, who I was kind of loyal to, and Chuck and Jason Lawson at the 4 and 5 spot.
Right.
So I played Tim most of the year at the 3, and it wasn't. He was good. I mean, the guy averaged 18 and 9 for the year. He was good. Probably in retrospect, I'd have rather put him, I think, as a 4-man if I could have. But I was loyal to Chuck Cornegay. I didn't want him taking Chuck Cornegay's spot. So it was a tough spot, but he was a great player and a great kid, and but probably was more suited to be a 4-man in college than a 3.
Did you make an NBA draft appearances? To the room where they were drafted? Because you had guys like Ebers.
Yeah. I was in the green room the night that Kerry and Tim got drafted, it was a great experience. And the year that Kerry got drafted, it was Stephon Marbury and Allen Iverson.
Classic draft, yeah.
Yeah, it was a class. Tim Duncan. It was a classic draft, no doubt about it. So yeah, it was always fun being in the green room with the guys. And you know what? Watching them realize their dream.
Mm-hmm.
Kids dream about this from when they're 6 years old, 7 years old, playing in the league and getting to be an NBA player. And then you're there on the night that they get drafted. It's a great thing to see.
Well, talking about Kerry, we was talking earlier about Kerry. Talk about that process. He wasn't one of your recruits. You said was Riley. So what was it? How did y'all mesh? Talk about that process of meshing with that team and with Kerry Kittles.
Well, it was tough because I get the job, and Coach Massimino had 3 guys signed: Kerry, Eric Ebers, and Roscoe Harris. The only one of the 3 that I'd ever seen before was Roscoe, because Roscoe played in New Jersey. So I was at Manhattan College. I saw his team from Marist High School play a lot because they had a lot of good players on that team, but I'd never seen the other 2 guys. So the first thing I do was go down to New Orleans to see Kerry. I had no idea if he was a good player, not good player, no idea. Mm-hmm. And so I went down there, and he really was reluctant. He didn't know me. He signed at Villanova to play for Coach Massimino, and so he really didn't want to come. So I had to really convince him. His high school coach, Bernard Griffin, was a great guy. He really wanted the kid to come. His parents were both devout Catholics. They wanted him to come. It was obviously a Catholic school. They liked that idea. So, eventually I was able to convince him to come up and try it. And he came up and tried it. And obviously, things that worked out great for him and for us, no doubt about it.
Yeah, on VU Sports, shout out to Eric Watkins. Number 20, 1995. I mean, man, that was a tough Big East year. It was so many. Boston College. I mean, you had guys. It was really tough to coach that year. It had to be tough. Talk about that team in particular, the mess of that team. And you had Alvin Williams, Kerry Kittles, Lawson there, Eberts, Cornick. I mean, that was really a tough year, but y'all overcame it.
Yeah, I mean, my first year at Villanova, we weren't very good. We won 8 games, I think. Then the next year, we have Alvin and Jason as freshmen. Kerry's a sophomore. Eric Eber's a sophomore. Jonathan Haynes is a junior. Mm-hmm. We got Ron Wilson as a junior.
Haynes, yeah.
We had a young team, but it really meshed as the season went on. And we were disappointed not to make the NCAA tournament that year. I think we were one of the first teams left out because we were a little inconsistent early on because of the youth. Mm-hmm. And then we really hit a good roll, and we beat Vanderbilt in the NIT championship. And in those days, the NIT was, I think, a little bigger than it is now. I mean, we played that game against Vanderbilt. The Garden was sold out. So
yes, it was. I watched it.
And we were down 15 at halftime. We ended up winning the game. And it was and when I think back to Alvin Williams sitting on the rim and cutting down the nets with all the guys, it was a great experience. And I think it set the stage for us, becoming a really good team for the next few years.
Yeah. To talk about that, listen, I've been my father, me, we have been diehard Villanova fans since '85. We talked about Ed Pickney and the McLean boys, and when you came and you won NIT, I was jumping around the whole road like Nova is time. And then the next year it was on 95. And now you look at this Big East. You look at this Big East now. What we was talking about, things about the Big East. What do you see this Big East now? What do you see the talent? Do you think it get back to that competitive level it was back then?
Well, let's understand this. That Big East that I was coaching in and Coach Massimino was coaching in was a beast. You know what I mean? When you think about Syracuse and Pitt, and then the teams that were in the league in those days. Now this Big East now is very good. Don't get me wrong; it's a very good league. But these are different times. In those times, kids weren't leaving early, so the Big East was loaded with talent. I don't know if the Big East now has as much overall talent. Yeah, there's some really good players in the league. Don't get me wrong. Of course, there's some great players in the league. We know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, just take a look at Jalen Brunson, what he's doing now, and guys like that. There are. But I think there were more in that old Big East. But you have some quality teams. You got a team like UConn. UConn and Creighton in particular this year are both capable of cutting the nets down.
Yes, they are.
I think Marquette maybe not quite as good as them, but close. So when you think about the league, those three are the top. Then you got to think about where St. John's is now. Big difference. Providence also has a chance to be really good. Villanova has a chance to be really good. St. John's is a team that, probably maybe should have made it last year to the NCAA tournament and didn't. But this year they loaded up. They got Kadari Richmond from Seton Hall as one of the best players in the country. So they are. So I think this year there's going to be a lot of really good balance. And I would be surprised if the Big East this year doesn't get at least 5 teams in.
Yeah, I was Providence, another team with Bryce Hopkins coming back. That is a team I'm looking at also. That's a thing. One thing he was talking about leaving early. Now, I'm glad I get your insight on that before we get to Villanova. Man, leaving early. It's a lot of people leaving early. The NILs as an influence. When you make your teams now, you got to make your recruiting class based on if they're going to still be there because of the transfer portal. You don't even know, because Villanova has a real loaded little team, right? But you don't know who's going to stay. How do you What do you think the heart of drafting a player and recruiting a player? What's the toughness of that now? What's
What,
that
what
balance?
you think about this, 5 years ago and more, whenever we thought about, it's hard to keep guys, you were thinking about guys not going to the NBA after 1 year. Now, when you talk about keeping guys, it's about them going into the transfer portal, because not really as many kids are still leaving after 1 year to go to the NBA, but not as many because of the NIL.
And
I
then
mean,
right.
you have a kid like Oscar Sheboy a couple of years ago who was at Kentucky, who,
Mm-hmm.
he could have left to go to the NBA and be like maybe a second round pick. Instead, he's making $2 million in Kentucky. So why would he do that? So a
Great
lot more
example.
kids that aren't. If you're a top 20 pick, you're going. You know what
You're
I
going.
mean?
Yep.
NIL or not. But if
Yep.
you're in that area, second round, borderline first round, kids are staying because they got a chance to make money. The problem is transfer. People are transferring at unbelievable rates. They don't have to sit out anymore.
Right.
And now basically kids are just, I play here this year. If somebody else is giving me more money next year, I'm gone. And that's kind of where we're at. And it's, it's probably the reason why the Roy Williams and Jay Wright and, now Tony Bennett probably contributed to them getting out of the business.
Right, you're right. I was saying that. I even think about Nick Saban in football. Why guys like that want to leave because it's a different game. That's a great example with Oscar. It's a lot of guys I feel like would have been drafted higher if it wasn't for the NIL and or some guys would have left. I even think about Justin Moore. It's just the NIL and the way it is and the way the draft is now. It's a little different. Talk about. I want to get your insight on Villanova this year. You've looked at them. You've analyzed them. What do you think about Villanova this year, and what do you think the coaching staff to the team?
I think that I think the coaching staff is really good. First of all, I've known Kyle Neptune for a long time. He's a quality guy and a quality coach, and obviously he came into a tough situation. You follow Jay Wright, who won 2 championships in like a 6-7 year period. You're coming into a tough spot, especially for a guy who's a head coach for only 1 year. So he's kind of learning it on the job, but he's going to learn it. And that's because he's a good guy and he understands the game and he understands people, which is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that coaching staff, I mean, Mike Nardi's been around for a long time. Anderson's been around. Dwayne Anderson's been around for a long time. So they have also a new guy who was in the NBA for a long time. So I think they have a really, really good staff, really good people. And having Eric Dixon back obviously is huge.
Yes.
And there's another kid who came back because he's got a really good NIL deal, as opposed to in the NBA, maybe he would have been borderline. So having Eric Dixon back, who's a first-team All-League player, that's a great place to start. Now, obviously, I think Jordan Longino has not really had much of a career yet because he's been hurt. Every year, this kid has missed a significant amount of time. Hopefully, he's helped. Now, when he's played, he's shown, flashes of being really good. Hopefully, he's going to be healthy. And then Wooga Poplar. Wooga Poplar is a really, really good player. Was at Miami, and he was an all-league player in the ACC. So he's going to be a huge, significant difference. Another kid who can shoot. I think a lot's going to depend on the kid Brickus from LaSalle in terms of the point guard position.
Man, I remember when Ashley Howard recruited him at LaSalle, and Brickus is somebody that people don't really understand. And Longino here in Philadelphia basketball and high school ball, man, Longino is so talented. He's and him being healthy. That is going to be a good team to look at. And I like Boxy. I think at center, I think he's a guy they need. They haven't had a guy that athletic in a long time at the 5. So, I really – it's something to look at. And Chris Parker is a guy to watch out for, who I feel like is another talent. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Coach, on that. What is right now? What are you up to now, Coach? What are you up to now? What are things that we need to look out for?
Well, you know what? I'm just getting ready for the season for CBS. I've enjoyed what I'm doing. CBS has been great to me. And so my first game is next week when Columbia visits Villanova. I'll be there.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's just, you know what? I'm going to be looking out for that. Coach Lappas, you're always one of my favorite people to inspire me around basketball. So it's great talking to you. Very great talking to you, and man, keep on. I'm gonna be following you, and I'm always gonna support you, man. Nova Nation.
Thank you, leader. Appreciate it.
No problem. That was Coach Lappas, man. Listen, high level sports talk. I'm gonna give y'all the juice. I'm gonna give y'all the juice, man. Listen, Coach Lappas, one of the best out there for Villanova, man. I remember watching him coach Nova, and I'm gonna tell y'all, when I was watching Nova basketball, I've been watching it all my life, right? But when I really got a clear look at it, we talking about sports. I mean, I was watching Randall Cunningham play for the Eagles back when he was the ultimate weapon, right? And I was watching the Phillies in 1993 that broke my heart. Shout out to John Kruk. That's my guy, John Kruk. I'm just gonna give it. Like I say, the Eagles had Randall Cunningham. The Phillies with John Kruk, Darren Dalton, Lenny Dykstra. The Philadelphia 76ers when they had Charles Barkley. This was around those times, man. This is around those times. The Flyers at the time when I started really getting into the Flyers, you had Eric Lindros, you had the Legion of Doom, you know, Michael Renberg, John LeClaire. And we come to college, man, you know, I'm a Big Five guy and I'm a Villanova fan. And we're talking about Villanova. If we're talking about Nova, man, I didn't like at that time, you know, Pop was always talking about Ed Pinckney and Howard Porter and I did my homework on Paul Arizin, a legend in the game, and there's so many other legends, you know, it's from Panone, and there's so many guys that have been Villanova legends, man. And this team had Jonathan Haynes at point guard, had Kerry Kittles, Chuck Hornegate, Jason Lawson, Eric Ebers. Like you heard him talk about guys, right? And when they won the NIT, like he said, the NIT was big. People are not y'all crazy. You didn't get to make the NCAA. You didn't get to make the NCAA postseason. You get to make another postseason to prove yourself that you wasn't slept on, and y'all sleep on it. So you give it. A lot of people give up. You just basically gave up on the postseason because you ain't make the NCAA. Now, what makes you worthy of the NCAA if you can't get through the NIT? I mean, it's crazy. And when they won that, I was everywhere. I was jumping all over. And the next year, they won the Big East. The next year they won the Big East. Kerry Kittles was a part of one, to me, the best draft in 1996 ever. Y'all can talk about Jordan, you know, when he was drafted, and that draft with John Stockton and Hakeem Olajuwon, and you know, you could talk about that draft. But 1996 with Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Kerry Kittles, we talking about Stephon Marbury. We can go down the line. I mean, we can go down the line. I'm missing people. Look at that draft. Go do your homework on 1996 draft that had Kerry Kittles. Do your homework. Do your homework on the 1996 draft that had Kerry Kittles, Allen Iverson, that had Kobe Bryant, who they slept on. Kobe was number 8. Kobe was drafted by Charlotte and then traded for Vlade Divac to the Lakers. Smart Jerry West. Man, y'all got to understand, man, that was it. People were sleeping on Kobe. That's crazy right now. All the generation listening to this, people slept on Kobe Bryant. Tim Thomas, who Steve Lappas recruited, it was him and Kobe, 1 and 2 in the nation. 1 and 2 in the nation. And Villanova was able to snatch one of the top 2 recruits in the nation. That hasn't happened in a very, very, very long time. Nova has never. Lappas, you can arguably say he snatched the highest recruit in Villanova history. Y'all can go back before that. Go ahead. OGs, tell me something. Tell me something. Tell me something. Tell me something. To tell me who was higher than that. Was it the McLean boys? Was it Ed Pinckney? Tim Thomas was a different level of a forward. He was a different level of forward. Listen to how Lappas said where he could play. He would have did things different. Do you know how he could play? The 6'9" could do it all. And left, he was the Jay Wright didn't have a one and done. If you want to say Cam Whitmore was his one and done, you can, because he recruited him, but he didn't coach him. But Tim Thomas was the absolute one and done out of Nova. Look, we out of here, man. I just wanted to give y'all, this was a high-level sports break-in, man. Shout out to all my Hardcore Sports Network team, man. They doing so good, man. So good. All these shows is off the chain, man. I'm trying to catch up with y'all, man. I'm trying to catch up. Y'all so busy. Y'all be getting it in, man. But, man, thanks for Coach Lappas for coming out. Please tune into him on CBS Sports. He said the Villanova versus Columbia game. He will be doing that. I will be watching. Shout out to VU Sports, Nova Nation, Villanova Athletics, everybody associated with Villanova. Love y'all to death, man. Nova Nation, we out.